Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. Sattology builds your identity, whereas mythology destroys your identity. The reason the word mythology was coined was to prove to the natives of India that their history has no basis. That was why it was coined from two Sanskrit words, or one Sanskrit word, myth and logos, which means a study or science. Like mythology means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. Opposite of that is Sat, which is truth. I have very, very special guest today. She's very popular in India, and we missed each other by a few hours in recently when I visited India. Very recently, just last week, 14th June. So let us welcome Esther Dhanraj. Welcome, Esther.
Thank you.
So you have done a lot of research, and I would like to ask you, and that was a topic of the show today also, that why Christianity is in decline globally. You've spoken on it on many platforms, and what is your view on that?
I would say there are. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can share.
So this is much more.
Yes,
because
you can share.
then I'll have to talk less and show more. So
Sure.
So let's see how I share my screen. That's my screen.
Yes, we can see that. Yes, yes.
Okay, so I have summed up here 5 reasons, internal reasons. So in my opinion, you do not need any external force or external reasons for Christianity to collapse. It will do itself in. That's my favorite line, actually. So I have pointed to 5 internal reasons for the collapse of Christianity in the West. The first one is absurd theology. Christianity's theology is pretty absurd. There's no logic in its theology. Like Christianity, doctrines like soteriology, which is the doctrine of salvation, Christology, the doctrine about central figure of Christianity, which is Jesus Christ. So basically, it's absurd theology, top to bottom. And then because of its bloody history, we know how bloody Christianity's history is, what kind of blood the church has on its hands. The third reason is the shallow spirituality. See, we as human beings are very spiritual, inherently spiritual, some races know it, some don't. But we are spiritual beings. And we are always looking for, which is why man has been always questioning, where did I come from? Where am I going to from here? Why am I here? So all that is answered by our spiritual texts. So Christianity fails utterly in answering those questions. So I call it shallow spirituality. And I can tell it from my experience that most of the time, initially it sounds, it seems very fulfilling, very enriching. But as you grow, as you mature, age-wise, I'm talking about age-wise, and you are exposed to different worldviews, that is when you realize that the spirituality is actually really shallow. There are so many things that Christianity fails to answer. And then there is clergy immorality. We know what kind of immorality the clergy, both in the Protestant church and the Catholic church, how clergy, the priests are, how immoral they are. And then the evangelical creed. So these are the 5 reasons. I'm not going to expand on these because these 5 reasons would in themselves become a one big talk. So to sum up, to explain on one or each of these reasons, it would take another talk. Actually putting all this down in a book. so for easy understanding. So these are the 5 reasons, Adityaji, why I think Christianity is collapsing in the West.
So are you going to continue the presentation or?
We can make it question answer format, because, if I continue on this, it's going to actually become, if you want me to continue, I can continue, but otherwise you can.
Yeah, what you can do is you can present your slides and then we can continue the question answers.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So when I say it's reducing it's declining in the West, does it really mean that Christianity is dying? Actually, Christianity doesn't die. It just mutates. So you know what other thing mutates in the world. So I'm not going to name it. So the collapse of Christianity actually does not equal to death of Christianity. And it is just undergoing what church optimists and sociologists call the Great Emergence. So what is the Great Emergence? So this is a word coined by Phyllis Tickle, and she put forth an evocative theory back in 2010. And according to this theory, what she says is every 500 years, the Christian church goes through a revolution. And Bishop Mark Dyer actually gave it a name, and he calls it the giant rummage sale. This is similar to the yard sale that we hold in the West. So every now and then we trash out the things, or we dispose the things that we do not need from our closets, from our basements. So the church holds something called the giant rummage sale every 500 years. And history is evidence. History is witness to this point. So what happens is the established order is turned upside down and replaced with something fresh. And a more vital form of Christianity emerges from that. And the former dominant form becomes pure and less ossified version of itself. So they have, Phyllis Tickle has also written this book called The Great Emergence, how Christianity is changing and why. So that's an important book that the viewers would want to read if they really want to understand how the church has transformed itself internally every 500 years, beginning with its start in the, I would say, the 1st century. So every 500 years, there is a revolution that the church undergoes. And as we speak, we are in one of those 500-year sales of the church. So this is what I said when I said history is evidence to this fact. So 500 years ago, it was a great Reformation. Martin Luther and the emergence of Protestantism happened. 500 years earlier to that, to the 1500s, there was a great schism. This was the split between the East and West Roman Catholic Church and the Greek Orthodox. The church split into Roman Catholic Church and the Greek Orthodox Catholic Church. And they were disagreeing on some very core issues like the Trinity. And earlier to 1054, 500 years earlier to that, Pope Gregory the Great cleanup, it's called, after the fall of Roman Empire. And this happened in the late 6th century. And in a council called Council of Chalcedon, due to internal debates about, once again, a core issue that is a Christian God himself, led to the separation of Church of the Eastern Roman Empire in the 5th century. And 500 years earlier to that was the birth of Christianity out of Judaism. Destruction of temple, we know how that went. So, as I said, as we are talking, the church is poised for another seismic change. So, they say that Christianity is declining. According to reports, like, for example, the founder of Dayspring International says that from around the world, reports say that Christianity is growing at a rapid rate. It's an amazing growth of believers and church congregations in the global south. And there's the Baylor University's co-director of historical studies of religion. He says that the remaining Christians in the West and the increasing number of global South Church, together they will form a new Christendom in which the majority of the world's Christian population will be found in the global South. And Pew Center says that between 2015 and 2060, the numbers of Christians is projected to rise by 34%. Now, I'll show you another study. I was supposed to start here. So it says that Gallup poll says that swift disintegration is resulting in a cultural transformation. Swift disintegration in the church numbers. So it says less than 47% Americans belong to any place of worship, including the church today. And then we have a Barna survey, which says that Christianity is being erased by don'ts. Don't know, don't care, don't believe that God exists, the don'ts variety. So gone are the nuns, N-O-N-Es. Gone are the days of nuns. Now it's the days of don'ts. So then George says that this church wipeout is the most rapid and radical cultural upheaval our nation has ever experienced. So we have similar reports from UK also, where they're saying that 63% of Britons used to describe themselves as Christians back in 1983, and that has fallen in 2014 to, that has risen to, fallen to 16.3%, the membership. So we have similar reports coming from both the US and UK, which were Christian majority countries, places. So then what is the verdict of all these studies? So James Hart is the emeritus of West Virginia's largest newspaper, the Charleston Gazette Mail. And he says that white evangelicals that can influence elections both in their country and other countries have shrunk to a mere 14% of the populace. There's another thing I want to point out, like the white evangelicals can definitely influence elections, not only in their country, but also in other countries. You see how dangerous that is. So he also says that he actually laments their power to swing elections may fade further. That's very sad for white evangelicals. And then we have similar statements given by denominations will begin their steepest decline in 2021, which is happening. So what do all these reports say? That Christianity is declining. But then here we have this report saying that, according to reports from around the world, Christianity is growing at a rapid rate. So where is it growing? Where are they dumping? They're actually dumping it in the global South. So yet, while these people say that Christianity is increasing, the numbers about India have remained constant. Look at this number, 1951 to 2011, it's 2.3%. I mean, even if you take population increase in population, even by those standards, it should have gone somewhere, right? Even if they're not giving the exact number, which is about 22 to 23% today, the unofficial number. By population increase, it should have gone somewhere in the double digits at least. So 2.3, they have maintained it, and they will continue to maintain it for the next 100 years, I'm sure. So the question then is, why do they build so many churches? If you go to rural India, every 5 kilometers, you find a church. So who are they building these churches for? Either it has to be for dominion, for occupying land, or their number is wrong. So these are some very dishonest numbers that the Christian church puts out. So, and then, sorry. So, let's see. Okay, so this is what they are doing. India has become Christianity's dump yard. And what are they doing? They're pumping more funds, they're deploying more foreign missionaries, they're erecting more homegrown conversion mills, I call them. They're recruiting more domestic proselytizers, and liberation theology, which is so embedded into the Christian theology. You'll find it in the Bible also. Again, that itself is a talk. A separate talk, I mean. So they're pumping in more brainwashing people about liberation theology, how the country and the majority, that is the Hindus, have been oppressing these minorities, which are the Christians, and so they have to liberate themselves. So they are dispensing liberation theology more aggressively. They're mobilizing more sections of the population into separationist, cessationist groups. Nagalim for Christ, that's a movement in Nagaland, a northeast state in the beautiful northeast of India. So that's a cessationist group, and that is a result of Christianization of a state. Actually, Nagaland is 100% Christianized, and now they want a separate country for themselves. They want to secede from India. So they're trying to expand their footprint. They're declaring dominion, and the most sad part of all this is they're taking over. They've always taken over our schools and hospitals, orphanages and senior care. Lately, you find them taking over employment agencies and the entertainment. Earlier, entertainment was mostly Muslims were in the entertainment industry. Now you find a lot of Christians also entering the entertainment industry. Now, India is a movie-loving country. India loves cinema, Indians. So that's a very impactful medium. So people believe what they see on screen, and movies can have movies or OTT, the OTT platforms, series on OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and other platforms. They are full of, they're totally anti-Hindu, anti-India, I can say. So people getting into, like, what group gets into entertainment industry really has an impact on the thought process of Indians. So slowly they're trying to change the demography, influence elections, control governance, and dictate policy. So I'll quickly go through, I won't go into these details. So for Christianity, it's desperate times, which calls for desperate measures. They have something called MPM, which is the marketplace ministry. So what they do is, if a Hindu cannot come to the church, take the church to a Hindu. So take it to the marketplace and start preaching to wherever you find them. So this is how you can preach or proselytize through your businesses, through your small businesses. So there are people in the West, in the US. This guy is from the US, Chris Patton. So this guy actually trains Indian small business owners to proselytize, how they can proselytize their clients that walk into their business houses. So this is a theology they dispense. God placed you in business so you can proselytize everybody you meet. God doesn't grade you on the basis of your business success. He will do so on how many you converted as a Christian business owner or leader. So these are the things they are taught. Say, commit to run your business with an eternal perspective. Commit to make an eternal impact on all your customers and associates. Commit to keep your business life and spiritual life together, never separate. And acknowledge they are one and the same. And then they say, exploit those that are in a relaxed shopping mood when their spiritual guard is let down, compared to a forced church environment. A church environment is much more intimidating and obligatory. So catch them when their guard is totally down, their spiritual guard is down. So proximity and intimacy, you share with them, take advantage of that and exploit the influence you have on them as their service provider or product seller. It is greater than your pastor can ever have on them. So these are the kinds of things that are taught in a marketplace ministry lecture. Then there is actually a biblical precedent to NPM, and it goes all the way back to when Paul was doing his ministry. Again, I will not go into the details here. So what is the result? Every year, over 8 lakh Hindus abandon their ancestral faith. They either become Christian, or I've added here Muslim also. So the number of Christians, Muslims do not proselytize. They have other ways of increasing their numbers. They give birth to their own children, or in some cases, they trap young girls, Hindu girls, into love and marriages, which we have a name called love jihad. But Christians are the ones that proselytize. So I have a message for Hindus. How can we prevent India from getting Christianized? So they just have to get out of sleep, because Hindus are sleeping. They have been sleeping, and they have a lot of work to do. So what I have summed up here, 4 levels of work: individual level, community level, constitutional level, and spiritual level. So what can they do at individual level? So enlighten themselves. It's a 2-pronged approach, I say. A lot of Hindus, especially the dharmic types, the concerned Hindus, are well versed with their shastras. They at least know what the Ramayana says, what Mahabharata says, what are Vedas, what are Upanishads. Even though not many people know it in great detail, they know what their shastras say. But I actually say that that's not enough to counter proselytizers on the ground, or even when a neighbor or their loved one, their relative, is on the verge of getting converted. What is needed is what is called Purva Paksha. Read the opponent's, know about the opponent's strategy. That's what Purva Paksha actually says. But here I've used it in terms of getting acquainted with the Christian literature, Christian theology, Christian doctrines, history. So the 5 aspects, the internal aspects that I have presented here, could be further researched. I have actually presented detailed talks on that on other platforms. One is actually in Hindi also. So you can actually see how all you have to do is just give a gentle nudge to Christianity and it will collapse. And I would say use those internal aspects. Read critical scholarship, I would tell the Hindus. Watch videos from Western critical scholars, Indic scholars. So basically the idea is to equip oneself both to defend from criticism and also to stop getting into the defensive, which we have been doing so far, and actually send the opponent into defense. And I also suggest, Hindus are one race that shy off from wearing their Hindu identity with pride. How many Hindus do we actually see in the US wearing a bindi to work, or even public places? I haven't seen. Even dharmic Hindus shy away from wearing that. So I would say no matter where you live, like everybody else, like all the other races that flaunt their culture, why can't we do that? If a Muslim can wear a hijab in the West, why can't a Hindu wear a tilak in the West? So wear your Hindu identity with pride, I would say. And some of the other suggestions are purely for Hindus because of the hate, anti-Hindu narrative that goes on here. So to put it in perspective, let me say this. You will never find a Christian or an Islam, conservative Christian or an Muslim friend wishing a Hindu friend for Diwali, for the Hindu festivals. But Hindus actually, or you'll never find a conservative Christian going over to a Diwali party. Very less, very, very rare. But I mean, going into a temple is, you cannot think of it. So I have some serious suggestions after going through what is happening in our society and in the Indian society here. I would say that Hindus must stop greeting or wishing their Christian and Muslim friends for their festivals. And you get so many verses. I mean, if it is Christmas or New Year, you get so many verses on how great God is, how great the Christian God is that has seen them through this year. Hindus get these messages. So I would, but a Hindu would never send a Gita verse or a verse from Ramayana or a Mahabharata story to any Christian or a Muslim friend. I would say I would encourage them to do so here on. And well, of course, I have added here another important aspect, which is deny halal certified products. That's another talk. I won't go into those details since we are talking about Christianity and not Islam. So then the next is how can you, what kind of work can we do at the community level? So share everything that you have learned from Hindu texts and Christian texts. And I would say part of the war is being fought on, a big part of the war, actually, big chunk of the war, the war of doctrines, theologies, war of truth is being fought on and through social media. I would say get active on it, blog, post, comment, share, and if not these, at least go in support of those who are. So let me give you an example here. 2 years ago, when I used to post something about the historicity of Jesus or talk about theological absurdity or doctrinal absurdity of Christianity and make a post on Facebook or Twitter, I would get a lot of criticism from Christians. And I would have to go back and fight my own fight. I mean, it used to break into a war and I would have to defend myself. I wouldn't have any Hindu coming in support of me. But 2 years later now, when I post something, I microblog now. I don't have the time to write lengthy posts on Facebook, but I do tweet a lot of informational tweets. I write a lot of information on Twitter, lengthy threads. All I have to do is just post my information, post my tweet. And then there are, of course, there is criticism here also, but there are so many Hindus that come in support. So that's when I say in Hindi, Hindu jag gaya. Hindu has woken from the slumber. So, like I said, we are a movie-loving country. I would encourage more and more Hindus to get into the movie-making business to counter the anti-Hindu propaganda in visual media. The other thing is empower the needy and the disadvantaged. Most of the conversions happen in the rural areas where there are more economically and socially disadvantaged people. So I would say go in support of them. Reach out to them, comfort them, counsel them, provide to those that are in need. So I work in the grassroots also. I do a lot of counseling, one-on-one counseling to families and individuals that have been converted. What I have understood is every tribe and every clan of India has a very rich heritage. You just have to remind them of their heritage, of their Hindu heritage, and make them feel proud of where they come from, proud of their ancestry. So that is all that needs to be done. So I would say everybody who has the opportunity must go get on the field and support. So these are some of the suggestions that I have given to Hindus that how they can work at individual and community level. And the most important thing is we definitely need to push for changes in laws. There are, yes, this is a Hindu majority country, but ironically, this is one country where the majority has to cry for its equal rights along with the minorities. I think there's no other country like this besides India. So there are certain articles that need definite change. So Article 25 to 30. Again, This is a lengthy talk. This would be a lengthy talk, but I would talk about just one article, which is Article 25, which says, which gives a citizen the freedom of conscience, right to profess, practice, and propagate any religious belief. So I would say we need to demand a right to practice and profess religion, the Hindu religion, where in the places where Hindus are a minority, for example, Kashmir. So even if Article 25 confers the right to practice and profess your religious belief, in places where Hindus are a majority, there is no problem, there is no violation of this article. But in places where Hindus are a minority, for example, like I said, the Northeast, of course, Nagaland is 100% Christian. There are no Hindus left there, but there are other Northeast states where Hindus are a minority. In fact, Hindus are a minority in 8 states in India. So at those places, Hindus just cannot practice or profess their religion. I mean, propagation is out of question. So practice and profess is also difficult in those places. So, and there should be a definite demand to drop the word propagate from this article because it was added as a conspiracy. Let me tell you how it was added as a conspiracy. So the All India Conference of Indian Christians was founded in 1940 to represent the interests of Christians in India. On 30th October 1945, now keep in mind that India gained independence in 1947. But 1914, the Conference of All India Christians was founded, and 1945, the All India Conference for Indian Christians formed a joint committee with All India Catholic Union. And together they passed a resolution that in the future Constitution of India, the profession, practice, and propagation of religion should be guaranteed, and that a change of religion should not involve any civil or political disability. Now, on April 16, 1947, the Subcommittee on Fundamental Rights of the Constituent Assembly determined the right to the freedom of religion to be, listen to this carefully, a right to freedom of conscience, to freedom of religious worship, and to profess religion. There is no mention of propagate in the original article draft. So the draft then goes to all the committees in the Constituent Assembly. When the minorities, Christian minorities get it for their perusal and their inputs, they oppose it. And they invoke the 1945 resolution. So 2 days later, the Constituent Assembly Minority Subcommittee decided by a majority of 10-5 that the freedom to religion should be rephrased as the freedom of conscience and the right to freely profess, practice, and propagate religion. Article 25 was finalized. And interestingly, this was rejected by another very popular and important member of the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Ambedkar. Well, he was not only a Constituent Assembly member, he has several things to his credit in the Indian context. So this is how I would say it was, the word propagate was deliberately added to it. And the reason people like Ambedkar rejected is because India was already tired of this propagation, the proselytizing in the British rule by missionaries. So they definitely did not want this word propagate because they knew what kind of nuisance this was going to cause. But of course, the Christian minorities had planned this way earlier than the independence. And then I would say, so there are also demands should be made for freeing of temples because, again, in India, though India is a majority Hindu country, the temples are not, and temples are under government control, whereas the mosques and churches are free, are in their those respective religious leaders' hands. So what happens with that is, now India is a country where temples are very old, very ancient, and some of the temples were built during the time of kings, and when there was there was a lot of jewels and gold and a lot of riches. So the temples are very wealthy in India, which came from several generations. Now, such temples are in the hands of government, and the revenue that temples get goes to the government. And it is from this revenue that the government announces schemes for the minorities. Now, I would want you to evaluate if that is a fair thing to do. So the minorities are the people that get to control their revenues, their temples, their mosques, and their churches. But the Hindus, the so-called majorities, do not have any right on their places of worship. So the article 25 to 30, anybody that is interested, you might want to go and read and see how anti-Hindu those articles are. So there is a need to push for changes in these articles. So to give you a perspective, so Tamil Nadu has about 478,000 plus acres of land, and estimated revenue is 6,000 crores per annum. But the amount shown by concerned departments is 58 crores. Similarly, in Kerala, the temple, Guruvayur temple has a 100 crore revenue. Sabrimala temple has a 150 crore revenue, and the amount spent on Hindu activities is zero. In fact, the priests of Hindu temples starve. They don't even make 2,000 rupees a month. So 2,000 rupees would equal to like less than $100, $50, less than $50. So that's what they make a month. So they actually starve when their temples are actually the wealthiest places of worship in the entire world. So Karnataka has 207,000 temples, and the estimated revenue is 72 crores. Amount used on temple upkeep is 6 crores. So these are the things that we need to change. That's what I have suggested. And the last thing level is where I would suggest the spiritual level. Like I said, Indians are dharmic by nature, inherently spiritual by nature. So we believe in what the West now calls collective consciousness. So this has been part of Indian spirituality for ages now. So we call it sankalpa, the manifestation. Affirmations. These are the words that are given by the West now. For example, Joe Dispenza, I think Dr. Joe Dispenza holds these sessions of collective consciousness. So this is called Samuhik Sankalp. Sankalp is the word that says manifestation or affirmation. Sankalp is the affirmation, I would say. So Samuhik is collective. So I would say the Hindus must come forward to form a samuhik, collective sankalp, and this is another way in which we can achieve equal rights for Hindus. So actually, that is what the word Hindu Rashtra is all about: equal rights to Hindus. Hindu Rashtra definitely does not mean that only Hindus can stay in an Indian state. Now, I want to note here that this is a country that was divided into two on the basis of religion. And one piece, it's divided into two. One gets to call itself the Islamic Republic. Why can't the other be called the Hindu Republic? Why should it be secular? So that's a question that I would leave you all with. Aditya ji.
Thank you so much. I mean, you put so many eye-opening facts I did not know, because you will know better than them. I did not know any of those things that you just said. Now, one question I have for you is that you correctly said that the Hindus should organize themselves. And also, you correctly mentioned those two authors over there. And every 500 years, they change their strategy. And one thing you said also struck me is that they never stop; they keep evolving, and so they will put up with a new strategies, almost like a corporation. Corporation never dies. Corporation keeps evolving every 10 years, 5 years, and but they have chosen a path of 500 years of evolution. So the one of the principal and drawbacks about Hindus is the complete disrespect for traditions. Like recently, one movie came, Bhul Bhulaiya 2, and there they show a pandit in a very funny way, as usual. And the director is always the Anis Ibrahim or something like that, Bazmi. And they showed a pandit running around like a joker, and they will always portray him, making Hindus making fun of their own pandit. You will not see a Muslim character making a fun of the Maulana. This one caricature they have shown on the Bollywood. So, do you think that the Hindus have, because they are disconnected from the traditions by the propaganda, do you think that Hindus they realize what they're making fun of? Because these movies are super hit today in India, and that's why I met those actors this time in India, and I was totally I asked them the same question, that didn't you even think what you're making fun of? And the answer was, oh, it's just a movie, don't take it seriously. What is your view on this kind of
Well,
observation?
there is a section of people that definitely say that. I'm not surprised. I would say those are the sleeping Hindus, like I covered in my presentation. So, a majority of Hindus are sleeping. Majority of them were sleeping that are awake now. But a certain section of them are definitely, it may be a very minor, a small section, small percentage, but there are definitely some Hindus that are waking up to this and voicing their opinion pretty strongly on social media, and they are fighting back. See, there is very low representation of dharmic Hindus, concerned Hindus in the movie industry. That's what I said. More and more Hindus must get into this business. It's not like Hindus do not have the money, they're just laid back. And there's a reason for their laid back attitude, also, I would say, which is genetic, high levels of tolerance, which is why we see Islam growing at a rapid rate and Christianity growing at this rate. So there are so many factors to it, but like I said, there is a certain section that would say the secular Hindus that we call here in India. They would definitely say it's just a movie, just chill. But it's not just a movie. Like I said, we are a country that get impacted, that believe what we see on the screen. So it's true for both the rural folks and the urban folks. So also, we can never separate the culture from a movie of a country. You know, things that happen in the society are shown. So there is this anti-Hindu narrative that is going on, circulating in the media, and that is being portrayed in the movies. So the
And
only way to counter this is by Hindus getting into the movie industry,
you
movie
know
making
the
business.
when you go to the Hindu conferences, everyone seems to be so assured. A lot of Hindus have come, but this time my experience was everyone was worried. Hindu khatre mein hai. Hindu khatre mein hai. The whole thing, that was the theme of the conference. Now,
Yes.
but if you look at the paramparas or traditions of India, none of them get agitated. None of them. Like, I don't hear anything from Madhva Sampradaya, don't hear anything from Sri Sampradaya, don't hear anything from Shankaracharyas. Nothing.
True, true.
And according to the American, like the research papers that you cited, now 45% of all Americans call themselves atheist, means they don't want to go to a church or a synagogue. And but they go to the, like yesterday I was in a Thursday evening kirtan in San Diego. There were no Indians over there, all Americans. Hardly two or three Indians. I was the speaker there, so I was one of them. But the hardly anyone there. I mean, so what do you say? Like, See, earlier in Hindu temples, there used to be morning Bhagavad Katha, evening Bhagavad Gita. That was a normal culture in India. Now, suddenly in last 30 years, we have seen all the temples are empty. People just go there to ring the bells. There's no discussion on Shastra, nothing. And even if you go to the Hindu conferences, probably very few people quote Bhagavad Gita. Very few people, and very few people quote the Shastra also. Do you think that is also a reason why they are not strong enough?
Yes, Hindu is a civilizational identity. It's not a race, it's not a religion, right? So that's what we've been trying to tell everybody that has a counter view. So we are so much about our Shastras. There's so much of wisdom in Shastras. Mahabharata is the world's longest poem. And I think Vedas are the oldest spiritual texts, religious texts. So why are they not taught in schools today? Now you'll find in missionary schools their moral science is the Bible. In madrasas, of course, Quran is their subject, the only subject. So why were we never in a position, why were we not allowed to be taught? I would say allowed because there's another article that I did not talk about, Article 30, which gives I think minorities the right to establish their own schools and teach their subjects. But it's not there for Hindus. Hindus just cannot do that. Hindu schools cannot teach. Hindu schools have to be secular. But a missionary school can be Christian and a Muslim school can be, Islamic in nature. So it's Article 28 actually. It prohibits religious, Article 29. Article 29 says that Article 30 says that minorities can establish and administer educational institutions without state interference. But Hindus are excluded from this because they are majority. This is a right of minorities, which is why a Christian kid knows how many books there are in Bible. The Muslim kid knows how many, what the Quran says, what Muhammad has said at what time. But you will never find a Hindu kid ask a Hindu kid who wrote the Bhagavad Gita. Forget about what is in there. Just ask him who wrote the Bhagavad Gita and he will not have an answer. Now, I'll give you an example. I think 2019 or 20. So I was here in India. I had just come from the US, my visit to India. And during the Sankranti time, I saw it falls in January. So I had just come in the month of December 2019, end of December 2019 to India. And January there was Sankranti and I saw a bunch of kids fly kites. These were 16, 17-year-olds. So I caught hold of them and I said, do you know the religious or cultural significance of flying kites on Sankranti? They had no clue. When I asked them, why do you do that? He said, well, everybody does it, so we are doing it. But catch hold of a 7-year-old Christian boy or girl and ask them why they have to go to church at 4 a.m. on Easter Sunday, as opposed to 8 or 9 a.m. on other Sundays. And he will give you a 3-page answer. You see the difference? So that is a level of ignorance in Indian parents, Hindu parents, and the complacency in Hindu upbringing, I would say.
Yeah, you correctly said that. Now, everything, see, the thing is, we can blame the government and the laws and everything, but I don't see Hindus coming on the streets for that. Hindus, I call them, many of them are WhatsApp artists. They love to send the messages forwarding. Probably this video will be shared many times also on the social media, but nobody pays attention to the words being spoken in them. We have been doing this show for a long time now, and we keep on highlighting the same thing, that stop being a WhatsApp artist, get onto the streets, get on to demand your rights, and force the political parties to follow you, whether it's a BJP or a Congress, it doesn't matter. Whichever is of political party, you need to force them to Tell or let them know that what you're looking for.
We are going
Now,
to do it, Aditya ji. We are going to do it because this is not just about the death of a religion. This is the death of a civilization. And if you actually look at it, I think Hindu civilization is the last standing ancient civilization.
it's the
They are
original
done
native
for
culture of the
many
world.
years.
Yes.
Yeah, in the world.
In the world, it's the original native culture. And
Yeah, it's the only standing native culture.
in the
So
US,
I think every individual, every non-Abrahamic individual of this world has a responsibility to uphold this civilization from disintegrating.
now the English word religion has a very limited connotation. Like the religion means religare or to reconnect with the Roman armies. That's how it was the original thing and became religion later on. Now, in the West, particularly Europe and US, Hindus are not considered a religion. So only three religions they count over there: Judaism, Christianism, and Islamism. Only three religions. And Hinduism is not considered, or Hindutva or Hindu-ness, Sanatana is not considered part of that. But if you look at the core definitions in explanation, not by the word explanation, then Upanishads are definitely a religion because these are instructions. Manusmriti is definitely a religion because it's an instruction. And Mahabharata is both Upanishad and Veda combined. That's why it's called Pancham Veda, fifth Veda. And Ramayana is also both a religion as well as a culture, civilization as well as a culture. Again, we have picked up a wrong platform to fight on because if you just say culture or civilization, then nobody recognizes you. And in fact, the yogis are considered psychedelic people by majority of Americans, psychedelic, like something gone wrong in the brain. And by the way, every American goes through yoga because the American Medical Association recommends them yoga for therapy, and it's official. But if you look at the Europe, then even that is not granted to most of the Hindus. Now there are a lot of American Hindus also watching this show right now, and they would agree with me that the Indians or the original nation, like India, like for example, for Judaism, Israel makes a strong push in the US. Every single Israeli consulate in the world pushes for Judaistic principles and protection of Judaistic religion. But the homeland of Hindus, that is India, not a single embassy or consulate in the world talks about or fights about the local issues facing the Hindus today. So do you think that there is a change is needed in the government approach globally also to fight this menace?
Like you said, they don't even recognize Hinduism as a world religion.
That's right.
So I'm not sure how you can actually engage them in the fight.
No, very easy, very easy. Indian government has to say that it's a religion as well as a culture, both, and then it's you begin the process. Right now, they think that, I've written a whole book on the natives. Now, right now they think that they have to civilize the Hindus. They are worshipping an elephant god. Like for example, a 10th grade textbook in America says that the Krishna created the caste system. But if you ask them that where does the word caste come from, it's a Portuguese word. It has nothing to do with India. Casta. So so that question is even doesn't come up because it's all in the textbook that Krishna created the caste system, and Krishna was a god created by the Brahmins to satisfy their control over their society. To
That what is written in the social studies book
in the
of the
10th grade book of
then I
American
think
kids.
the onus is on the Hindu groups in America to fight back and put things in perspective. So
People like
how about saying that Jesus was created by the Roman Empire?
that is a fact. That is a fact. Historical
Yeah.
fact.
So either put that fact also in there or remove this also.
You're putting a very valid reply because the foolish questions deserve foolish questions, not not an answer explanation. So that's a valid point. Now these are the things need to be highlighted by the Indian government or Indian education system or US consulates. But if you leave it to the Indian Americans, they are in very much minority. And if you look at the state apparatuses. Now I know there is a protest going on since 2007, and which I am also part of it, where we try to change the text of the California textbooks for exactly putting out these things. But then it comes to, again, the Hindu groups have highly secular people, primarily belonging to
Divided and highly secular. Yeah.
highly secular, belonging to HSS, RSS, and all these prominent Hindu organizations. I have to take their names. These are the people who are also there, who ultimately go back to the same old thing, that Hinduism is a culture. Now, if you the moment you say culture, it's not going to be recognized. Like, for example, I'll give you, in any government function, I'm part of many government functions, and I force them because I have the credentials of a priest also, in Hindu priest in the US. So I have to force them that if you are having all religion summit and there is no Hindu priest over there, that means you're excluding 6 million people out there. So, or more than that. And if you include the yoga communities and Hindus from other countries, it's almost like 40 to 50 million professionals, people who profess Sanatan Dharma, one form or the other. So, like, there is no only three priests: Islamism, Christianism, and Judaism. No other religion, including Native Americans, are not there. So this is American condition, and the people who are watching the show, if you do not know, if you're sending your kids to Yale or Harvard Hindu Studies, the person who is teaching Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism over there, according to them, is a Christian pastor, is a practicing
Absolutely.
Christian
Yes.
pastor.
Yes.
So, I mean, we are not systemically challenging anything, and not a single Indian university has ever challenged it. Not a single education minister of India has ever challenged it. And I mean, if you just put it on the people, now leadership has to come from political leadership sometimes, because the people sometimes may not be aware of it. I don't see any such challenges. Like, authors like me keep writing and keep doing shows like this, but but the but the point is, there is no official academic push. So what do you say, sitting in India, that what can the Indian government do to change this? If there's somebody is watching, please note these points actually.
Aditya ji, today we are fighting for a change in our own social studies and history textbooks. Our history textbooks do not have anything that can make an Indian kid proud of his heritage or his country. So Mughals are idolized. Mughals are actually shown in a very heroic light. They are the heroes. Indian kings who put up a tough fight, are not even mentioned. I mean, they are just a footnote in our history books, our own history books. So today we are in a state where we are asking the school system, the education system, for a change in this curriculum of history textbooks. And I am a part of such a committee, history textbook committee. The thing is, it's not easy to get a change. So we're talking about textbooks in India, asking them to change the historical facts that have been published in those textbooks and that are being peddled to the kids, that are being taught to the kids. And you're saying that the Indian government should talk to the American government or the Western governments in the West to change these textbooks. We are far away from that.
In your entire presentation, you highlighted the facts from the Western polls, many numbers, and those are the numbers may be totally wrong. Like, a Pew Research according to me, is a thing of a garbage dump. You throw it out in the garbage, and even Americans don't believe it. Forget about others, but Indians take it like a sacrosanct, because that is being sold to India. So you have to understand that the entire West, beginning from Christianity, is a large marketing enterprise. They sell everything. They're selling it. They're changing it and selling it.
Marketing concept.
Yeah, they use multi-level marketing, and how well they're organized. That's why they call organized religions. They're almost running like a corporation. And it's a really, I say the Devatas have protected it. Still, Hindus have survived. Still, After all this, and we are going to still survive. I know that Hindu is not, Sanatana Dharma is not in danger. It
No,
is
we're
then
not going to survive anymore. We are going to live.
we are going to live.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so the point, my question to you is now, is that you correctly highlighted that that if you're not able to change in India, what is the hope of changing in the other countries? Now, give one example: Vietnam, or countries like small countries like Thailand, and small countries like Barbados. Barbados has the most authentic Hindu teachings directly coming from Awadh. I can't see your video actually.
Yeah. I'll be there.
So I we don't see that in any of the in those smaller countries. They completely trashed out everything given by the Europeans. You know, in Vietnam, even though it's a Buddhist, they call it a Buddhist community, but it's a largely Hindu community. Shiva, there is a Mahendragad hill in Vietnam. It is Shiva temple over there, and it is being the worship of the temple is sponsored by the Vietnamese government. You know, today, even today. Now, it takes one decision, small decision, but the thing is, Hindu leaders as well as Hindus are not convinced enough. I'm not talking about all the Hindus. The
No,
Hindus.
I would disagree here, Aditya ji. It's not
Uh-huh.
that Hindu leaders or the Hindu government is not convinced. See, no other country has as many internal problems as India has. We are so divided. We have so many internal enemies, domestic enemies. Our enemies on the outside are okay, enemies. All countries have those enemies. But we have so many, like the secular Hindus, the left. The entire left is the left is, right, what is the left? It's the Muslims, the missionaries, the media, okay, all the left governments. So they're all together. They're the leftists. They are a cabal, as opposed to the right. Who are on the right wing? It's just the Hindus. So you see the internal enemies. So I will tell you a small example. I think yesterday or last week, in New York, the mayor of New York crushed about 2,000 bikes under a bulldozer, illegal bikes, because they were creating nuisance on the streets of New York. Not a word of outrage. Nobody opposed it. In fact, they welcomed it. Even the opposition. But the same thing when you did that, I think the Yogi government, Yogi government bulldozed illegal constructions, illegal occupations, illegal homes. You know the kind of outrage that happened? So within India, in India, so and this Agnipath, the latest thing that has come up, the scheme that the government announced, the military recruitment through the Agnipath scheme, outrage. CAA, outrage. 370, Article 370 abrogation, outrage. So every scheme, so now it has come to such a thing that if the left is opposing it, it must be good.
Well,
that's where we are today.
I beg to differ a little bit here because I know you're making very good points actually. A little bit here. See, the traditional left and right definition is a French definition. Anyone who is opposing the government is automatically the left. Anyone who is for the government is automatically the right. In India, the left or right has been made permanent positions. The right is the so-called Hindu groups and other nationalists are the right, and so-called who are not nationalists or the secularists are on the left. In India,
It is what it is, right? So we go by you're talking about ideal versus reality. So we have to only talk about reality.
But the thing is, if you look at, see, the definitions are created. The West is the world of definition. They create definitions. They create meanings. They create connotations. Now, one of the articles I wrote was, we are neither left nor right. We are dharmic, right in the middle. Because we both of them can be on either side of it. Now, if I question, like if people say it's so difficult and we have to take, how is it possible? So much problems in India. Problems are everywhere. Even in the US, there are problems on the gun laws. Big problem. Yesterday, Supreme Court granted the right to all Americans to carry arms in public. Supreme Court said it, that all Americans can carry arms in public now. They don't even have to hide it. And they went against the government. So somebody has to decide over there. Now, in democracy, now, even if Agnipath you highlighted and all these things, we all know the real reasons why these things are happening. We all know the real reasons. Now, somebody in the Hindu leaders or somebody has to stand up and say, this is the path we are taking, and this is what the mandate they have received. But if we do not, if we give away our mandate and do not take courageous decisions like these, are the most important decision is, I mean, is in throughout the world is correcting the history books. Now the 8 years of the government has passed and we have not even attempted to. We are beginning to do it now. So the
That's what
people
I'm
have
saying.
given the mandate.
Also called, they're politicians at the end of the day, Aditya ji. So there's something called vote bank politics, and there's so much of minority appeasement this government is into. It has really let down every Hindu voter. Every dharmic Hindu voter has been let down by this government, and never before have we been let down as this government.
Because the hopes are high. So expectations were high because it's
probably, yeah.
Expectations are much higher than what it was. And you are correct. You are correct also. Their problems were much bigger to resolve. But this is also a very big problem, like the presentation that you're doing for that. Every other organized religion is supported by a state, except Hindus. They are not supported by a state.
Exactly.
All over the world. I know I've taken too much time, and I will have to invite you again.
And also, I'd like to make a small, I think there is a misunderstanding. When I said Hindu is a civilizational identity, I separate Hindu from Hinduism. Now, this Hindu, which is a civilizational identity, has a religion, which is Hinduism. So Hinduism is definitely a religion, and our texts are the Vedas and the Upanishads and all those things. But Hindu as such, I would say, is a civilizational identity.
I'll give one in English. You know, you're writing a book, and I have published 11 books. Whenever the West says ism, that means they're automatically branding you as imaginary. Like if you try to tell a Christian, instead of Christianity, you say Christianism, they get burned like anything. Like
it's a Christianity.
But if you call it Christianism,
why should the Western definition be our yardstick? Why are we going by? I mean, it's okay. Who cares about what the West thinks?
Yeah, but the point is, that's why I never call it Hinduism. The reason I don't call it Hinduism is because it's an imaginary. Like the moment they say Hinduism, that means imaginary. So what I tell them is that it's either Hindutva or Sanatan Dharma. Whatever you can choose whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day, they cannot deny our religion just because it has ISM at the end of it.
No.
Right?
ISM is their epithet to us. That's how they refer to us. You know, I have not seen an Indian scholar referring to Christianism, but they call Judaism because they're fighting against Judaism. Jews, they call Judaism. I have not seen an Indian scholar referring to them as Islamism, because the moment you say ism, it becomes imaginary. Like it is in the academic circles in the West, in the English language, it becomes imaginary. But anyway,
we are here, Aditya ji. We will debunk every counter narrative, and they will fall flat on their face. I promise. Just believe me. So none of their narratives will stand. It's just a matter of time. So they have come after us for yoga, right? They will come after us for other things too.
Yes. No, thank you so much, Esther. I mean, I'm really pleased to speak with you after a long time. We've been trying to schedule.
A long time. Spending for a long time, right?
And then also, we'll continue our discussion on many points that are left out. We'll continue over there. And for all the viewers who are watching it, I know you are loving the presentation, and you please comment. You are asking a lot of questions, and we'll bring her back for some other discussion on the same topic. Thank you and namaste.